Hey, what's going on everybody? This is Ryan and you're watching Collecting Casually. Have you ever heard the saying, the early bird gets the worm? Well, I experienced that this morning. So like usual, I checked my phone this morning for notifications and I happened to have one from my Facebook Marketplace app. This notification said that there was a new posting with my search term of comics, and that got me really excited. But it was a normal work day, so I was going to be really limited on what I could do regarding getting to these comics. So I'm going to show you a quick view of what I saw when I checked out this listing. Now, this listing again showed up 10 hours before I saw it, and it advertised a garage sale that was running from Wednesday through Friday. And they advertised things like comic books, vinyls, old VHS, toys, clothing, and much more. Now they were running this sale from Wednesday to Friday of this week, today being Wednesday, so I actually caught this ad the first day that it was going to be live, but I knew I wouldn't be able to take a look at it until my lunch break at a very minimum. Thankfully I did have an hour lunch break today, and I happened to have $100 in cash with me, so I headed down to the garage sale. Now the sale is a bit out of the way. I had to take a couple dirt roads to get there. It was tucked back in between towns. I live in a decent sized city. This was outside of town by quite a few miles, like I said, on dirt roads and in between some of the smaller rural areas in town. So I wasn't really sure how much of an effort other people were going to make trying to get to these comic books, but I knew I just had to make it down there on my lunch break just to see what was left. And like I mentioned, you know, that saying, early bird gets the worm. Well, I happened to be one of the early birds, even at right around 11:45 or 12 o'clock. I don't know exactly when I got there, but it was sometime around that time period. Now, when I pulled up to this seller's house, there was one car already there, and I was already worried that, hey, oh man, somebody's already looking at these comics, or they may even be gone, because like I said, I was only getting there right around the 12 o'clock hour, and you know, comics typically at garage sales and estate sales around here go really fast. When I showed up, the seller had a bunch of items out on his driveway like a normal garage sale, but I could see 3 or 4 what looked to be long boxes of comics, along with actually a comic book display that I had seen in the images that he posted on Facebook. So I started flipping through the long boxes of comics, and I started to find some Amazing Spider-Man books from the 2018 run. What I found was almost a complete run from issue 1 to almost 100, and I ended up picking all of those up. So when I was flipping through the long boxes of comics, I heard the seller talking to the other guy that was there shopping the sale, and he said that he had only sold vinyl albums so far today, and that I was the only person that had even started looking at comic books. So that made me feel really good. I knew that these boxes hadn't been picked over, and there might be some gems in there. So once I had looked through everything and kind of picked out a couple piles of books, we started totaling things up, and I came out to a little over $100. And like I said, I only had $100 with me, but the guy said, hey, you know what? You're buying in bulk, you're buying a lot from me, I appreciate it. Let's just call it $100 even. So in addition to the Amazing Spider-Man books, I picked up some Uncanny X-Men books, as well as some Spectacular Spider-Man, a couple Spawn books, and then a couple random books of just neat titles and covers that I really liked. So I pulled a couple books out of this haul. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. First up is not your standard comic book, but this is the Marvel Super Special for the Dark Crystal. This is actually a official comic adaptation of The Dark Crystal. Now, this is a Jim Henson movie from the 80s. If you've never watched it, definitely check it out. I think it's available streaming online in a few locations. Definitely a campy movie, but it's a classic you should definitely check out. Since the bulk of this haul is Amazing Spider-Man, I'm just going to show off a few of those books that I thought were kind of cool covers and key issues. So first up, we had issue number 50. Now, there's nothing necessarily significant about this other than it has a really amazing Art Adams cover. And Art actually went on to do the cover on some of the later books in this series, and I've really enjoyed his artwork and watching his art process on Instagram. If you don't follow him there, check him out for sure. He goes through the process of how he does all the artwork for these Amazing Spider-Man covers, and it's just been amazing to watch them. Next up is the first of a few variant covers, and this is for issue number 72. It is a cover by In-hyuk Lee. Now, he is, again, one of my favorite artists that I've come to love in the last few years. Definitely love this cover that he did on Amazing Spider-Man number 72. One of my other favorites is Joe Jusko, and he had a Hobgoblin issue that he did as a variant cover for issue number 75. This is the artwork from the original Marvel Masterpieces trading card set that he did, and it's always cool to find these Marvel Masterpieces covers. covers. All right, next up is a first appearance, and that is issue number 88, the first appearance of Goblin Queen. Now, I was actually surprised to find this in the stack of books, because this is kind of a key issue here, and a pretty recent one. It's not worth a lot, but I was actually surprised to find it in the collection. Again, this is one of those Art Adams covers as well. Definitely love the artwork and was happy to add this to my run. And not only did I have the first appearance of Queen Goblin, I have the second appearance and origin story here. Again, another Art Adams amazing cover. All right, moving over to X-Men, just a few books here. I actually got 2 copies of Uncanny X-Men 214. One of them is a direct edition, the other is a newsstand. But the key here is that Dazzler joins the X-Men in this book. All right, now I saw this pair of books sold as a set. It's issues number 115 and 116 of Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man, and I knew this cover looked familiar, as well as 116, and I knew they had some sort of significance, but I just couldn't remember what it was, and I didn't want to look it up in front of the guy, especially when this pair of books was only $1. It turns out that issue 115 is the 3rd cameo of Foreigner, and 116 is actually the first full appearance of Foreigner. I'm definitely glad I added these 2 books to my pile of books to purchase. Towards the end, when we were counting things up, I was having to pull books back because I only had $100 with me, and I was way over $100 on this, and I was trying to reduce down or close to $100. And I just happened to, you know, keep this book or pair of books in the pile because I knew there was some sort of significance, and I'm glad that I did. All right, and then I just picked up a few more random books that I like the covers of, and especially the art by some of these artists. First up is Moon Knight number 2. This is a variant cover with artwork by Peach Momoko. All right, next up is Black Cat number 7. This has an awesome cover by Terry and Rachel Dodson. All right, and I was actually surprised to find this book in the $3 section, but this is the Venom Annual number 1. This is a Virgin cover done by Clayton Crane, and this is the like green version or cover B of this cover. This book actually has some decent value to it, so seeing it there for $3, I just instantly recognized Clayton Crane's artwork, realized that it was a Virgin cover, and added it to my pile to pick up. And last but not least is Black Widow number 1. This is another variant cover with artwork by the amazing J. Scott Campbell. All right, so there you have it. Like I said, the early bird gets the worm, and even though I wasn't that early, I was actually there midday, I was still the earliest bird and ended up with what I would consider to be the worm. I think I did pretty good with this haul, especially, you know, since I wasn't prepared really at all. Thankfully, I had some cash with me in my wallet, had a long enough lunch break to make it down to this rural setting to look through these comics. And I'm really happy with what I picked up. You know, I added a ton of books to this Amazing Spider-Man run. It was one that I had kind of started collecting in the late 60s count, so there was a ton of early books that I picked up today, starting with issue number 1, so that really gets me pretty far in building up that collection. And then, you know, a couple Spawn books that were in semi-beat up condition, but for $1, I just had to grab them. And then those highlight books that I showed you there towards the end, I was really happy to add a few of those to my collection. All right, well, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Let me know what you thought of the books that I found today. I think I did a pretty good job and came out with a really nice deal. Again, $100 for 109 books. That's a pretty good deal in my opinion. Make sure you give this a like if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing if you wanna see more videos like this, and we'll catch you in the next one.